Atari just reinvented the video game.
Atari Unlimited. Atari Unlimited. Atari Unlimited.
What's up, all you Atari maniacs? Welcome to the second episode of Atari Unlimited. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo Aaron, joined as always by the Brent.
Hello.
Have we got a show for you?
No, I think the show's for the audience.
Incorrect. It's for me.
Oh, fair enough.
It's for me because this has been a great one. Listen, I don't want to overhype this show.
Well, that's good.
But I promise you, we've never done anything approaching the depths of awesomeness that's about to spew forth. I promise you, as this week, as selected by the selection committee, we'll be looking at this, the Atari Jaguar, or Jaguar to some Americans, if you go down that road, and a game for the Jaguar, which we also chose. I'm real excited what we did. I'm excited about this one, the Brent, not just because I own one. If you're listening on the radio, right here beside me is an Atari Jaguar. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this device, Brent, but let me ask you, what's your history, your deep, deep history with the Atari Jaguar?
I have now touched one.
That's the first time you've ever seen one in person.
No, I have played with these horrible, dreadful controllers, but I honestly recall nothing. Outside of Tempest 2000, I honestly don't think I can name 3 games on the system.
Well, listen, I'm gonna school you up, my friend, because
I accept being schooled.
I will say
the whole point of Atari Unlimited is to get in there and get schooled. So school me up.
And this is an interesting tale, a winding tale.
Oh,
you know, and it's sort of similar to the last week's thing with the Lynx. All right, so
well, that was a month ago.
You'll recall that Atari had hit some rough times in between parts of the early 90s, the late 80s.
Yes.
After being dominant for so many years, both in the arcades and at home,
sure,
with their various Palm machines, of course, the Atari VCS 2600, if you will. And so there was a lull. And so, of course, the computers were going okay, and the ST was coming around, but they saw an opening to have sort of a lower cost game system. And so there happened to be an outfit out there working on this thing called the Conix Multi-System. It was an outfit called Flare Technologies. Woo! But it's spelled flare like a bang bang flare, not a brick flare.
I'm sorry, what was the noise of a flare?
Bang bang.
All right, fair enough.
That's what it sounds like before it explodes. And so Atari saw what was going over here at the Conix Multi-System. Now, if you're not from the UK,
which I'm not,
you may not know what the Conix, Multi-System is.
Getting choked up here, fam.
It is. And I'll tell you how I stumbled across the Conix Multi-System. When we first opened this arcade, I was looking for stuff to show on the video screens, okay?
All right.
And I was looking for something. I found this video file I downloaded somewhere, and it was a huge, like a half-hour, 45-minute long look at the Conix Multi-System. And the Conix Multi-System was this next-generation console that, aside from a lot of promises in terms of the graphical fidelity, the sound of this thing had like a giant chair you sat in that moved, and it had like steering wheels. They had all these accoutrements that made this thing look like the next huge thing.
Unfortunately, it sounds like it cost $1 bajillion.
Well, the problem is that they ran out of money over at the Conix Multi-System. And so this, by the way, would be a continuing problem. So Flare did not release the Conix Multi-System, although if you look around in magazines, there's tons of hype for this thing. So, I mean, it was close. It was close to coming out. So Atari was like, hey, why don't we have a look at what we can do with this? And so Flare basically effectively worked for Atari for a while before ultimately, I believe, were bought by Atari. They renamed themselves the Flare 2 Electric Boogaloo. And so they started working on some consoles for Atari. Now, Atari, they thought to themselves, how can we be clever? All right. And so they thought, we're going to have Conix, we're going to have our boys at Conix and Flare work on 2 different systems. All right. Yeah. we're gonna work on that. And one of them is to compete with current machines, your Super Nintendos, your Genesises, and the like, and a Mega Drive.
Sure.
But then you've got the big dog, or cat in this case, that's bringing up the rear. We're gonna unleash while they're in between cycles. Get jump on them. It's gonna crush them. So the systems were named the Panther. Get it?
Yeah.
And the Jaguar, right? The Panther was the mid-range number, but the Jag was bonkers time, okay? And so they started going to work on this thing. And so as they worked on them, the Panther team was lagging behind the Jaguar team, right? They were having trouble getting the Panther to work. They built the prototype. They couldn't get to work.
Yeah.
Annoying.
Not
right?
good.
And so, in August of '93 at the Chicago Consumer Electronics or Entertainment Show, Atari said, "Listen, everyone, we're proud to announce the Panther has been canceled. We're proud to announce we're making the Jaguar." So, in one fell swoop, they announced the machine, they canceled it, and then they announced the new machine. This is all true. It's exactly the way it went down. They said, "Hey, this new machine is going to be released in '93 for $200." Now, that's a bargain.
Yeah.
Anywhere. $200 dudes is cheap.
Yes.
They then later on they said, "Okay, $250." Sorry, did we say $200? We meant $250. So,
because let me tell you something, the public loves when you raise your pre-launch price.
right, they did, and people did make note of this. So initially, they released their machines, the Jaguars, to release simultaneously in New York and San Francisco with a preset amount to sell. Okay, and then 6 months later, in early '94, that's when they actually released the system.
Sure.
So
Soft launch, basically.
I'm going to tell you what Atari said they were doing and what was really happening. What they said was going on is like all these systems sold out. Everything looked good. In actuality, they didn't all sell out. Everything looked meh. Okay. Then they released it. And by the way, just to humiliate this, and I'll be approaching this as I go through, keep this in mind. Remember Game Fan magazine? When the Jaguar launched in '93, Game Fan voted it Best New System award. So just keep in mind, so at first people were kind of hyped about this thing.
Well, I guess the check cleared.
Well, no, I mean, listen, I mean, what else was coming out? Not that much. So really, at that point, you're dealing with the 16-bit offerings, plus you've got the 3DO, which cost, I believe it was like $700.
Yeah,
it was over
it was
double
out of price. Yeah.
what the Jag cost. So here we go. We're into 1994. It's time to go to work. So let's talk. At this point, it's a good time to take a break from the history lesson and talk about the actual machine they released. Okay, so get this. The Jaguar, you know who built the motherboard in this thing?
If I had to take a wild guess,
You're never going to get it in a million years.
I'll say ATI.
No. You're an idiot. No.
Oh.
It was IBM.
Oh, I was close.
No, it's not. Just because they got three initials. This thing has a motherboard in it that was made by IBM. Now,
that's going to cost
right
me.
out of the gate, IBM had trouble making these boards. Okay, so I'll mention that to you right off the top. They had problems making the boards. This thing has 2 megs of RAM, and of course, it's got the RAM cartridge in it. Now, when you look at this thing, it's funny to look at the statistics on this, okay? What made this thing interesting was it was a multi-processor system. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of the Amiga in a weird way. So, the Jaguar utilized 2 32-bit RISC processors in it. Well, that's not true. You know, they both are RISC processors named Tom and Jerry.
Okay.
Like the cartoon.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah. Good call.
So Tom was the graphics processing unit, 32-bit RISC architecture, right? Object processor, 64-bit non-programmable, provides output to the system, the blitter, the whole 9 yards, DRAM controller. Jerry is your audio, right? DSP, it had CD quality sound. full stereo, and also Jerry also controlled the joystick controls. Okay, so you've got two big processors in this, and then you've got the Motorola 68,000. Okay,
Yeah.
now
Like a little backup chip, basically.
no, the 68,000 processor is the old standby from the Amiga.
Yeah.
It was in everything, right? It was in the Macs, everything. This is the 13 megahertz variety, all right? And the Motorola was there to just do the dumb guy work, basically.
Right. Well, that's
okay?
what I said. A little, like, tag-along
Put a
chip.
pin in that as I get back to it. Now, I'm going to talk about the outputs on this thing. It's 1993, okay? Ignore all that, everybody. And what are you going to output to in 93? You're getting up there.
You got to at least have your RCA.
Well, what Atari... No, that's for suckers. Atari had RF still. So if you look at the back of this thing, you got RF over here. And, added bonus, if you wanted to put another sort of connection on it, it's got this edge connector at the back of the machine, and you can slip various doodads on it. Now, the problem with that is that sucks.
Yeah.
Because when you bought this thing, it didn't come with that. I'm not done with that. Give me that. I need to show them something else. So when this thing came out, you were hooking it to your TV just like you did when the Atari 2600 came out.
Back in the 70s.
Now, I bought a gimmick to let you had S-video off that edge connector,
right.
but it was something that wasn't even around back then.
Sure.
Here's another problem right out of the gate. This is baffling to me. So, if I hold up the Atari Jaguar to the camera there, you can see the cartridge slot. I mean, you can literally see it. Because Atari, in their infinite wisdom, decided not to put a dust cover or any sort of accoutrement to keep dirt or grime from getting in the cartridge slot.
Yeah, as you're one to do.
And so, guess what happened? Grime got in the cartridge slot a lot. We should mention, hold up the joystick there, Brent. You know, Atari was renowned for its joysticks from back in the day. The old joystick standard, well, they changed that. If you look at these, the pinouts on these are completely different from what you'd be used to. And so what you had here were the Jaguar joysticks. All right, hold up a Jaguar joystick there, the Brent, or controller. Calling those joysticks to be incorrect.
Gamepads.
Game Pro gave these controllers a sideways thumbs, and they sort of liked it. But in 2006, IGN editor Craig Harris rated the standard Jaguar controller as the worst game controller ever. And he's not wrong. It's not that good.
It's not the worst, but it can be certainly in the running.
So, as Britt's holding it up there, you can see it. The standard controller has 3 buttons at the top. You've got your gamepad. You've got 2 start and select type buttons. Then you've got an entire keypad. I don't know what it was about those early systems that were obsessed with having a keypad. Coleco had one, and Television had one. The 5200 had one, and now this thing's got one. But it did allow you to put these overlays in, as the lovely Brent's showing you there. I actually have a game here. Show them the game box.
I already did, Aaron.
And then, so that's the only game box for Jag I've got. And then I've got a bunch of games. I'll just hold one up. But the games had this kind of wacky bar at the top.
They learned from the links.
Yeah, because these are easy to get out of the machine. So that I'll give them that credit on that one. So with all that said, Atari also mentioned, hey, listen, we got other stuff going on. We've got more stuff coming.
Don't like the Jag? Don't worry, we got something else.
So they had a bunch of peripherals ready to go eventually. The first thing they had was the Pro Controller, which looks a lot like the regular controller, but it had 6 buttons on it for like fighting games and whatnot. They also eventually released the Jag CD unit. The CD unit plugged directly into this cartridge slot, and then had a pass-through so you could plug a cartridge into it. In fact, the pass-through, you could get a memory cartridge to put on it for save games and whatnot.
And we're not going to go too deep into that because we might cover it someday.
We're not. We also only had 12 games. So, well, they know. Don't give me a break. The other stuff they had ready to go, allegedly, a dial-up internet link with online gaming support, a virtual reality headset and an MPEG-2 video card, so you can play videos. And they also had, those didn't get released. But they did have, of course, we mentioned the CD. They had a link cable for local area gaming. There's I think there's one game or a couple games that support that. They had an adapter for 4-player gaming, which we've played that.
Yep.
Our buddy brings one to BowFest every year, and we play NBA Jam. It supported 2 games, NBA Jam and White Man Can't Jump. Those are the 2 games it supported. And
one of those is superior to the other.
And get this. You could theoretically support 8 players on the Jag, but no game ever used the support for it. But you could if someone had supported it. So there's something for you people that are making homebrew right now to get into. So anyway, most of this stuff never shipped. Let's get back to how it was doing. So how was it doing? Well, of course, they launched a very famous ad campaign, the old Do the Math campaign.
Yep.
Now, the Do the Math campaign was telling you that this is a 64-bit system. Everything else is 16-bit. They're garbage. It's over 32. This has 2 32-bit RISC processors. So the math is a little wacky, but there's 64 bits of memory path. That's where they get that. So the math, they sort of made the math work in their favor, I guess.
This was definitely during a era of gaming where that kind of crap was schoolyard importance.
Right,
So
exactly.
that's why they were pushing that narrative.
So, the Jaguar released. It was getting pretty early on, it was getting its hiney handed to it by the 3DO, which sold horribly.
That's not good.
Right? So what happened here? Well, part of the problem was Atari really had trouble signing third-party software makers.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the multitude, but this is the first problem. And there's a lot of speculation as to why. But one of the things that makes the most sense to me was who was running Atari at this time? The Trammels. Jack Trammell. Now, he retired right around this time, but he was still in there with his son. And he had burned so many people over the years that they didn't want to deal with it.
His feet were on fire. The bridges burned as he was walking across.
He had burned everyone over the years. So when he went to Atari, that was a problem. Secondly, and this is hilarious, and we'll get more into this when we talk about our game, the instructions for how to program for this thing were not good. They were legendarily bad. And the dev kits for this were like hints that you could not get them. They were almost impossible to get.
Yeah.
So the people making the games often just had to make the games without actually having a dev kit or knowing what they were doing. And so then we'll get to the next problem. This is what I didn't know about. This is what I never heard of. The Jaguar had an underlying hardware flaw, okay, in the CPU's memory controller. I believe they said it was 1 register short. Okay, and so what this did was it made it excruciating to program for because of this oversight, which was a huge problem. So let's just go back. Bad programming tools, no access to a dev unit, and a hardware flaw built into every machine. Okay, that's not good. And so what happened was people were like, we want to support the Jag, but we don't know how. Or we don't know how it's going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort of phone it in. And the phoning it in meant the 68,000 chip. That chip was there specifically to help the communication between the two chips and do some basic functions. But people decided that this would be the primary chip for the machine. Now, this is the same chip, as I mentioned, that were in Macs, that were in Amigas. This thing was, the 68,000 chip was in the Amiga 1000 that shipped in 85. You know, not this version, but a similar version.
And to the devs' defense, they already knew how to program for that chip.
Right, exactly.
So when you've got bad dev kits and bad literature, but you're still wanting to do something, it was by far the easiest fallback everyone took.
And so, what did you get? Shovelware. A lot of easy ports from the Genesis and the Amiga.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, the cartridge I've got here, I don't know where I put it. This Pinball Fantasies right here. Yeah, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. The Amiga version is better than this. All right, but this is something that came out well after the Amiga. It's a sad, you know, we've seen this happen before. The same thing happened, by the way, to the CD32. They just ported all the low end stuff up without using
Yep.
any of the the additional benefits. So you wasted all that Tom and Jerry brought to the table in that, which is a real shame. So at the end of the day, by the end of '95, Atari was in big trouble. Okay, their revenues had went from 38 million down to 14 million. Okay.
Oof.
And even a deal, so believe it or not, they won a lawsuit against Sega. And this lawsuit, I'm not even sure what it was about, but the end result was Sega had to buy stock in Atari. And they also had to let them license some of the Sega stuff to play on the Jag. It never happened. So I don't know, no one knows exactly what happened there, but one thing's for sure, I don't think that was going to save the system any way it went. By '95, you had mass layoffs.
Yeah.
You were ending support. And so at the end of the day, it's been speculated that from the introduction of the Jag in '93 to the end of '95, Atari only sold 125,000 Jags. All right. And then added kick to the pants, they had 100,000 of them in the warehouse.
Ooh.
Ready to go. And so at the end of it all, they were blowing these things out.
Yes.
Right now, it's funny. I don't think I ever saw these things getting blown out. I don't think the people around here were even putting them on the shelves. Did you remember much action in the stores on these? Because you were romping and stomping in the mid '90s.
I mean, I remember there was hype around the machine.
Yeah.
But even during the hype time, right, before anyone can say, "Oh no, that was really bad," it was such a reserved hype.
Yeah.
That people weren't going out and doing pre-orders or anything like that. There were no midnight sales for the Jag. It was a let's see what's going to happen, and then when you have that at launch, that is just you're starting off going downhill. That's never good.
Now in '95, this is a legendary interview. Remember Next Generation magazine? I love that magazine.
Yep,
they ran an interview with Sam Trammell, which is one of Jack's sons.
Jack's kid, yeah.
And he would talk the biggest load of baloney. And it was so funny. He talked about how the machine was more powerful than the Saturn, how it was only slightly outpaced by the PlayStation, which was funny. He also said they were gonna sue Sony, and it had a bunch of it made headlines.
Why not?
Because I remember after the interview, they talked about this for months, about how baloney this was. And I believe that same year, Sam had a heart attack. So like, it was a rough year for Sam. I don't blame the guy. Get in there and get yourself over. So you're probably asking yourself, what happened after they went out of business? Well, it's funny, and I'm one of the few people that remember this company, but Atari ultimately were bought in lock, stock, and barrel and merged with JT Storage. They were a hardware manufacturer. I had one of their hard drives. It said JT on. I remember, but they were long gone, and eventually they got picked up by Hasbro. And Hasbro, it basically made all the stuff public domain, which was nice. So they were like, I mean, of course, probably now they wouldn't do that. And then eventually the Atari name got bounced around before, I think it was, what was that French company, Graham's? They ended up taking them over and renaming themselves Atari. Now, Atari has made a comeback, obviously, the last couple of years, but it was a rough year. And they sold games up until like right around 1999 before it was all said and done. Let's talk. So we talked about the hardware. We talked about ultimately what happened to the thing. We're gonna kind of skip out on the Sega CD or the
Jag
CD. We'll come back to that eventually one of these days. Let's talk about the games. Okay, how many Jag games have you played in your life?
Tempest 2000.
Yeah.
The one we're playing today.
Yeah. That is all.
Alien vs. Predator.
Yeah. Infogrames. Thank you, Keyboard G. That was a one. So 3.
I remember there being like a tank game.
If you can't identify the title, it doesn't count.
Okay, 3.
So one of the reasons that speculated the Jag failed, one of the many reasons, I mean, take your pick, was the poor quality of the games library. We've mentioned why. Okay, now, I've got a list here, and these lists the action may vary, but this is from Atari, so we can assume it's a legit list.
Oh, no, we can't, but go ahead.
I've got a list here of their top selling games, all the way down to I've got the top, say, 15. I'll go through them real quick. All right. It's funny because the one at the very bottom of this list I thought was a pack-in game, so I don't know if they sold it separately as well.
Well, no, they usually count that towards the sale.
Well, not this time, I promise you. So going from the lowest to the most, at the very, very bottom, you've got Cybermorph. You know, where did you learn how to fly? That one,
Nope.
I've really heard that chick talk. Then you've got a game we played on ARG, Bubsy 3. You've got Val Desiree Skiing. Zool 2, which is another Amiga port. Club Drive, which is the dirt worst, by the way. The dirt worst. Club Drive sold 14,000 units. I couldn't believe it sold that many.
And that made a list?
Oh, yeah. We're moving to the top 10 here. Dragon, let's see. If Evolution Dino Dude sold 18,000 plus units. Bruce Lee the Dragon movie game sold 19,000 plus units. Checkered Flag sold 20,000 units. Iron Soldier, 21,000. Raiden, which was a late release, 22,000. Trevor McFur, 23,000. Get this. This is the game that came with my machine. Kasumi Ninja is in the top 5 at 24,000 units. Kasumi Ninja. Get this. What beat Kasumi Ninja? Wolfenstein 3D.
Oh, no.
27 plus thousand units. Then the top 3. Keep in mind, these are the top sellers on the system for the entire, up to 1995. Number 3, Doom. Sold 33,102 units. Okay. Tempest 2000 sold 33,393 units. All right. And the number 1 game on the Atari, Alien vs. Predator, sold 52,223 units. So roughly probably near half or 1/3 of the people that had Jags own that game.
Yep.
Which you'd think there'd be more of them out there. It's funny. Tempest 2000's held aloft as this great game. The funny thing is that what?
Now, wait a minute. It's not held aloft as a great game. It's held aloft as a great game for the Jaguar.
Well, I'm not ragging on the game.
Okay, go ahead.
But
I mean, it's okay.
So
it's good. It's good.
Some of this is speculation, but this has been confirmed. The author of this game was working on this for the Panther.
I believe it.
And so when the Panther got canceled, they're like, "Hey, how about a little?" They moved it on over. So yeah. So those are your top selling games. We're not going to look at any of these today, by the way.
No.
So our game sold under 1,800 units.
Oh, no.
I want you to think about, officially, it sold under 18,000 units. By the way, Jeff Minter, who did Tempest 2000, is the guy that was working on the Panther. And they brought him into work on the Jaguar CD Virtual Light Machine, which we'll get into more later. But that's something that was it's something that played cool visuals while you listen to a CD. It was more popular than any game on the system.
I believe it.
And it was built into that.
I believe it.
You know how Minter is. The people love him. Brent, with all that said, do you have any questions or comments about the Jaguar before we get to our game?
No, we got to get right into it.
Let's get into it. Go ahead.
We chose Super Burnout for our game of choice.
I've been called this more than a few times, ironically.
Well, I don't think... okay, we'll just leave it at that. Aaron, this was a game that I certainly hadn't heard of. Had you heard of this before we did a little bit of research?
Well, let me tell you something. We're going to move right along, but we got to talk about the people that made this game, albeit briefly. So this game was developed by an outfit called Shin Technology Sorrel. All right, you ever heard of them?
Absolutely not.
Of course you haven't. And there's a reason. They only were around for like a couple games. So, but the funny thing about them is, these guys weren't a corporation. They weren't anything. They were just some goose, right? And so they were doing demos on like the ST, and they're French, and an Atari executive in France saw some of their work. They're like, "Hey, why don't you try your hand at making a game for the Jag?" They're like, "Yeah, okay." And so they started working on a game for the Jag, which was Super Burnout. But the funny thing is, they didn't have anything to use, so they borrowed a dev kit for another company, but they only got it on the weekends. Okay, and by the way, this was like 4 guys, and they worked in the dude's. This is confirmed. They worked in the dude's bedroom. Okay.
Yep.
So the game you're going to see today was put together by 4 or 5 dudes working from February '94 to December '94 in a dude's bedroom, and they didn't have full access to the dev kit. They had to borrow the dev kit every weekend. All right. So what do you do when it's not the weekend? Well, they did all the programming work on an Atari TTO-30, Atari ST, and then all the artwork was done on an Amiga 2000 with deluxe paint. Okay? And the soundtrack...
Yeah, I wonder what chip they ended up using.
And the soundtrack was also done on an Atari STE with synthesizers, and then ported over to the Jag. So all the extraneous work on this was done on other machines. So eventually Atari saw what they had going. They were like, hey, this is pretty good. At the very end, they're like, here, have a dev kit full time. They were almost done. They're like, oh, thanks. So they finished this thing, and then the money Atari paid them, and yes, they got paid. They used to incorporate. Then they had another game in the works, and then Atari went away.
Yeah.
And so they had one other release, I believe it was, and then they were gone. So their business didn't last that long, and that was the end of them. But I thought that was a wacky story.
It is.
About how those guys came together. We should mention that this game, before Brent gets into the particulars, this did release late. It was July '95. Pretty much everywhere on the planet. This was Shin Technology Sorrel developed, Atari and Virtual Experience published. And here's an interesting tidbit. The producer of this, who did a few things in the Jag, a lot of stuff on the Jag, including Doom and some other stuff, he also did stuff on the new one. So this guy he kept picking losers. I think a lot of the Jag team, whatever, worked with a new one, as I recall. And one other note, the musician on this, let's see what his name, Alexandre Eakin, he did KGB and Dune on the Amiga. He did the music on the Amiga versions of those games. So we got a lot of Amiga people out here. Take it away.
Aaron, have you ever played the game Super Hang-On?
I have.
Well, we're done here. All right, folks. This is Super Burnout is a motorcycle game where you take on 7 other racers in a fair amount of courses.
Yeah.
And you get to pick your bike, which is also pretty awesome. And the bike choices are very relevant. If you are doing a technical course with a lot of turns, it's better to take a slower bike that has better handling. And if you're doing a fast course, you want something that has a little bit of pep and step.
You've got 8 bikes and 8 courses.
Yeah,
in case
there
you're
you go.
wondering. And they're all quite different. Yeah.
To be fair, the courses are very unique.
Yeah, each country. You got Australia, Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, Hungary. Hungary got in there, and Japan.
I don't believe they're any sort of licensed course, and if they are,
That's like saying the bikes are licensed.
If they are licensed courses, it's definitely without the license in tow.
There's no licensing involved.
But the courses are interesting.
Yeah.
They do a lot of up and down hill type movements.
Yeah.
A nice mix of sharp and loose curves. So you have a lot of variety. You also have day and night cycles. Well, sort of cycles. There are some races that you will start in the day, and as you're racing, it will become night, and your guys' headlights will come on. I thought that was a pretty neat touch.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
It's a very competent course and racer system. And really, the game handles fairly well.
Yeah, even on that joystick, it's okay.
Yeah, you can't just gas the whole time. You've got to slow down. You've got to use your brake in places. So there is some competitive and learning to do as you race. However, even on the most boneheaded difficulty, at least one of your computer players is on the Tron light cycle, and once you see him at the start line, you will never see him again.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you there.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I played, of course, like I said, you've got all these different courses, and I think the key to this game, there's 2 keys. Key number 1, put the difficulty to moron.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because if you play on anything but the dumbest difficulty, you're
what
toast.
they've got in this game. What they do is they rate the drones. They call them drones in
Yeah.
this, and you want to put the drones on dumb guy at least to start. And then Brent mentioned you've got all these bikes, right? And the bikes all have cool names: Lightning Racer, Punisher, Wheels of Terror.
And one of the bikes' name is Rabbit.
Super Rabbit. I like, but my bike of choice was Killing Turtle. Okay, because Killing Turtle had the most grip, and but it was the least speedy.
No, on a speed course you cannot take that.
Well, that's what I picked, and I would routinely finish second and third. Right, you could fit, and there were plenty of times where I could have won, but I screwed it up at the end or didn't have the acceleration. You need to get to the point where you could ride one of the quicker bikes, but maintain your stability on the course. I could not. I had trouble from not wrecking.
See,
I had anything else.
I found success in the exact opposite.
Yeah,
all speed, no grip. Even on some of the more curvy courses.
Yeah,
and the reason why is. On the slower bikes, your acceleration is nothing. Well, it might take you a half a lap to get up to speed.
It depends on what you're driving. Sometimes, like for the Turtle, it was double nothing.
Yeah.
But like if you're on Super Rabbit, you go. It goes quick. But
here's the thing. We're talking about bikes.
Yeah.
We're talking about courses.
Yeah.
That means they matter.
Yeah.
And that is so rare in an arcade racer
in a Jaguar game.
Well, no, not
it's
just
incredibly rare to talk about it and not be like, oh God, no.
No, it's incredibly rare in an arcade racer. Which let's not fool ourselves. This is definitely an arcade racer.
The guys that made it, they mentioned what they took for inspiration, and you named it.
Yeah,
it was that. It was Ridge Racer. It was Outrun.
Yes,
the stuff you would expect. But the thing I mean, listen. What's the key to a game like this? It's the feeling of speed and some control, all right? And this is one of the games on the Jag. The Jag has a lot of games that make you feel like you're not playing a 64-bit or even a 32-bit system.
Yes.
You feel like you're playing a 16-bit system or even lower sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
This was a game I'd never played before this week. I'd never heard of it. And I looked at the library to try to find something that looked like something that might be on a 32-bit system. I played a lot of Road Rash on the 3DO, right? That's a 32-bit game on the 3DO. It looks good.
Yeah.
This game does a good job of displaying speed. It doesn't slow down when you have other racers on there. It does a good job with different courses, different backgrounds. It tells you the kind of course it is, so you can sort of pick the bike you want. It's not super deep or anything, but it's okay. It's got a championship series. And you can play practice rounds. You can play with or without the computer players, which is fine. And so I would say on most 32-bit machines, I would call this the pedestrian title for the most part. But on the Jag, I think this is one of your better standouts graphically. Well, and the music's real good too. We shouldn't leave that out.
Yeah, it's not bad. They're not bad. I'm judging this not as a Jag game. I'm just judging this as an arcade motorcycle racing game.
Yeah.
Which, it's got 2 strikes against it for me before we even start.
Yeah.
It's not simulation, and it's not wild craziness. It's that in-between land that I
arcade racer.
That I don't
racer,
like,
yeah.
Okay? It's also motorcycle, not car.
Yeah.
Normally, I would much rather just do a car racing game if you're going to do something like this, like a Lotus or something, or an Outrun. So, going into this, I wasn't expecting to have a good time.
Yeah.
Then you've got the difficulty cranked up to 11. And I was like, man, I know before I even turn this thing on, I'm going to hate it.
Yeah.
And I did not hate it. And the reason why is I could watch myself after every lap get better.
Yeah.
And I always improved my times. I got on the scoreboard a couple times. And I never won a race. I never won a race because when that player 1 goes, in my opinion, I don't know if it's possible to catch him because he is gone. But I always felt like I was getting better. There were some annoyances. This is obviously a digital pad game for what needs to be an analog environment. Whatever, that's fine. Both on the control and on the gas. These really needed to be analog, but Jag didn't have analog, so we had digital. I felt like I had control of the bike about 90% of the time. There were certainly times when I had a turn pegged, and I was not on the gas, and I still slid off the road.
Yeah.
But the next time I run the lap, I remembered that corner, and I did better. So for me, being that it is an arcade motorcycle racer, I enjoyed this more than I enjoy Super Hang-On.
I did too. And I don't like Super Hang-On at all. In the arcade, it's okay. But I never liked, I know people loved it. Me and you played that I played it on the Amiga, I played it on the ZX Spectrum, I played it where I had enough. So the fact that I picked this, I was like, well, I'm an idiot. But I enjoyed this more. The music was good. The graphics were surprising. I'm assuming these guys actually knew how to sort of use the twin chips because I mean, I don't think the 68,000 could render graphics like this. I've seen them try for years on the Amiga. So I think what you've got here is a little taste of what you could get on the game. And one of the things we haven't touched on that this also provides is 2-player split screen play.
Yeah.
Top and bottom screen. I tried it out. It works great. It's totally fine. Which that right there is a good selling point.
Yes.
I'd rather race another person than the computer for the obvious reasons, but they add that in. You also you can set up your joystick the way you want it. You can set the laps the way you want it, the difficulty, and it saves those things for 100,000 times. It says in the manual,
changes.
after 100,000 changes, you can't save anything anymore. But
Well,
up to 100,000, I think we're okay.
Yeah,
on
I think
the cartridge there.
We're gonna eke by.
I like what they did with the different areas. I think that, I always liked it, but they actually did try. And if you look at the manual for this game, it's actually pretty good because they talk about the different tracks. The tracks have different sorts of ratings. You know what I mean? So, like, some tracks are, they call them
Technical.
speed tracks. Yeah, and some are technical tracks. Like, for example, Japan, it says, here's the blurb. Bright blossom line track with mountains on the horizon. You get that. It's there. It says rating, technical. So and it shows this in the game too, the rating. So you'll know what kind of technical, semi-technical, or high speed or speed. It's nice. Same thing with the bikes, which are also in here. They tell you all the different speeds of the bikes. They actually do that in the game too. So you don't need to pick up the manual every time.
Yeah, it's all in there.
As far as I know, this game didn't have an overlay. I didn't see anything that used the phone thing at all.
It was 2 buttons unless you were doing manual gear shifting.
Yeah, so, I mean, they keep it simple. I mean, it could have been a deeper game, but, I mean, for a couple of dudes screwing around in a guy's bedroom on the weekends, it's sad that this is one of the better games I've played on the Jag. If you consider that.
Yeah, no, if you pulled this up and I did not know it was a Jag game, not that the Jag influences if I'm going to have a good time or a bad time.
It does. It influences it in a bad way.
I would never expected this to be on the Jag, mainly because it runs so smooth.
Yeah, that's the key.
It is butter smooth.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And like I said before, you start learning courses. The lefts and rights, whipping from left to right is a awesome sensation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I double big thumbs up for this game. I really enjoyed it.
I'm surprised that we both liked it.
I am stunned that I liked it.
The 2-player thing took it home for me. I mean, again, it's a pedestrian game on a lot of systems on the Jag where so many games are crap. This was a legitimate game. You can play and have fun. And it's a bike riding game, motorcycle game. It's as good as most of the ones I played.
Yes.
Their critics, as you might imagine. So I'm going to preface these scores by these critics. The Jag had been blowing smoke everywhere about its 64-bit this, right? And then people were getting the thing home and they were like, "This is garbage."
Yes.
And so the people that reviewed this they treated the Jag like garbage. So
well,
they hated everything. Now most of it deserved hate.
Right. I'm not given the rags of the time any kind of leeway. But I will say, this is the bed that Atari made for itself.
It is.
Because they kept talking about how it was the best thing to ever come to gaming. It was going to do all this crap, and it simply did not happen.
So let's go through some of these scores. All Game gave this 2.5. The Atari Times, you'd think they'd give it a high score, 81%.
Well, that's a high score.
Atari World gave it 7 out of 10. CD Consoles gave it 3 out of 5. And now, we go to school. Edge, 4 out of 10. EGM, 9.5 out of 20. Out of 20. Electronic Playground, 3.5 out of 10. GameSmaster gave this 26 out of 100, for those that watch that. Game Pro, 14 out of 20. Games World, 41%. And Next Gen, 3 out of 5. So some of these got okay scores, but like Ultimate Future Games, 31%. Video Games, 5 out of 10. So it's a lot of these things scored it too low. And I think we mentioned that they built up a lot of hate.
Yeah.
In the rags when this came out, and I think that probably didn't do them any favors.
And let's dial back some expectations if anyone's going to hunt this out to go play. This is not a 10 out of 10 super game.
No.
This is a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 arcade motorcycle racing game.
Yeah.
So, this isn't the second coming of the best game ever.
No.
This is just a solid game for what they were trying to do.
If you're going to sit down and play games on your Jag, and I've done this, okay, and you want something that you can play like a game,
yes,
this is a game.
This is it. This is way up there.
One last little tick here, two. So in a French magazine, CD Consoles, it was stated this game would support the Jag Link. All right? And Atari had pushed for Jag Link support in this. You could hook up 2 Jags together.
Sure.
However, the fellows that made it said that they had that Jag Link in there, but they removed it because of stability issues. And apparently this is something that's pretty common with the old Jag Link. It had some stability problems.
Yeah.
Secondly, on eBay, I looked this up, and you can get it, but I saw it going in a weird, I saw it going $60 loose, and I saw it going up to $150 in the box, and I saw a lot of play in there, but everything listed now is crazy money, but I did see sealed copies of this thing going for $270.
No.
But that means it's probably a warehouse. If it only sold if this thing sold less than 1,800 copies, I don't know how many they made. There's probably a lot of Jag games still in the shrink.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me at all in that. So, with all that...
Or filling up a landfill.
Yeah. With all that said, if you wanted to get yourself a Jag proper, okay, I bought this Jag probably 15 years ago at a local store, and I think I got the Jag, one controller, and a game, and I think I paid $70. I think that's what I paid for
Those days are long gone.
Those days are long gone. It goes for top money now. And the Jag has, for whatever reason, gotten crazy here in the past year or two. You can get a multi-cart for the Jag now, which I don't have one. It's just because I don't know what I put on it. But you could get one now that even will play the Jag CD stuff on the multi-cart. So, but you've got to pay the big money to get it done. So, where do you stand on the Jag as we close this thing down?
This was...
Without having played that much. Did you play anything else this week on the Jag aside from this game?
No. The Jaguar, unfortunately, is the tail end of Atari, just personified. I mean, it was the tail end of Atari.
To put it in perspective, this came out after the Falcon.
Yeah.
This was out after the Falcon.
Yeah.
So, and you know how that went. The Falcon, I mean, it got killed. I'm sure we'll talk about the Falcon one of these days.
Someday, maybe.
So this was the last hurrah.
Yeah, and it absolutely reflects what Atari had become by this point, which is full of half-truths and a bit of deceit and
desperation
and absolutely not understanding what the market was looking for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think we have a happy ending in that. I guess maybe we do, but the Atari this was the end of the actual Atari.
Yeah.
And after that, you've got whatever Atari is now, which it's still Atari in some ways, and we'll get into it. But this put the nail in the coffin. And the sad truth of it is, if this had been handled better, they were in with a chance at that price.
Yeah.
So
well, and that boy, talk about a goof raising the price after you announce a price. You cannot do that.
Yeah, you're right. And and this is another, the Tremels, I can't help but blame them. And it's the same old story. All these crazy peripherals. They announced like the virtual reality stuff because they'd seen the Virtual Boy. Probably should see how that played out. But think about it, because these things exist on Earth. There's some of them that are around.
Yeah. So
they put R&D in all this stuff. So it makes you think to yourself, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Who knows why? So with all that said, that'll take us to the end of Atari Unlimited this week. We will be back at the end of the month with another Atari Unlimited, September 28th. Should be a lot of fun. Next week, Brent.
Well, let's talk about the 28th a little bit, Aaron.
All right.
If you are out there in listener/video land and you want to help us decide what we look at next here at Atari Unlimited, you can go to patreon.com/the retro rotation, sign up to be a Patreon member, join our Discord where we'll start a new poll to see what we talk about next month.
Yeah, it's always fun. Like I said, as you do these, some of the things got eliminated, as I recall, from the last poll.
The way our polls work is if something gets at least some votes, it will remain on the poll for the next go. And we have 9 slots available. I think we only are going to have 2 fall off this month and have 7 that got some votes at least last month. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. The rotation spins around next week. We're back with R. Sinclair, our wacky look at the beloved ZX Spectrum. We're going to be taking a look at Le Bay de Mort. So we're going from French game to another French game. I'm sure I butchered that for all you French people. I apologize to the folks at the Big F. But Le Bay des Morts is the name of this game, which I believe is a sort of I don't know what it is exactly. I haven't played it yet, but I know it's on a lot of systems, so it must have a lot of jacks somewhere. It should be a lot of fun. And then, thank you, Super Tech Boy. He says it's Abbey of the Dead in English. There you go. That's a better name for the English folks. That should be a lot of fun. Brent, do we have any other news you want to get into here before we call it a day?
Nope.
All right. Well, listen. I urge you, all our Atari fans, run out immediately. Buy one of these Jaguars. Keep it in a box. Put it in your closet for the next 10 years. Go on vacation with that money you make. That's what I would do with that bad boy. Until next time around, make sure you play
something.
Atari.